So for this particular video, intuition said to point directly. So I'm going to point as directly as possible. Shortly after meeting Angelo, I had a nice 4-month period where it seemed as if I had been in some kind of perfect utopia. There was a very clear sheen to everything. It felt absolutely natural to hug perfect strangers. It was its own version of heaven, I suppose. And then irritation started to creep back in, feelings of depression. And I could feel something deep within my solar plexus here. It felt as if there was some kind of dark, tarry tentacle buried into my body that somehow was connected to the very center of the earth. I didn't have any reference for what that feeling was, yet the best I could do was call it sorrow. It felt endless and ageless, like a sorrow that could not be connected directly to any portion of my life. And every evening, I would allow myself to settle with that sensation in the body and just feel it entirely. Paying attention to thoughts. There weren't really many. There were two. The first thought was, this is going to kill me. It was extremely painful, and it just felt so utterly embedded that it didn't seem like it was ever going to go away. And the second thought was, is this ever going to end? And it had a timelessness to it. There wasn't necessarily a relief. And every evening I would settle with the sensation and just allow it to do what it did. And it often was accompanied by tears, a deep crying. Crying so hard, there was an inability to catch the breath. There was a squeezing of the musculature. It felt as if I was going to break or maybe even powder my bones. And it just continued. And then there would be a little bit of relief. And in that instant, there was a thought, oh, I guess I'm done. And that wasn't quite it. It would come again the next evening. Sorrow. Some kind of spiraling down, some deep sense of darkness. Maybe the most accurate way to describe it is something karmic. It felt timeless. And crying and feeling the pain, physical, that would radiate outward from here in the midsection. It was difficult to have any other sense of what it may be connected to. It didn't have a lot of reference. It just felt like pain. And still the thought, this is going to kill me. Is this ever going to end? And it continued, night after night, for around a period of 6 months. It was exhausting, yet it was also rich. It was unexpected, even though it was familiar. The contradictions and the paradoxes tended to play themselves out regularly. And I would lay in bed, feel into it, and drop down again. Till finally, I didn't care if it was going to kill me. It seemed to be a sense of what is best is to step directly in. And I didn't care if it was ever going to end. It seemed so profound that maybe the entire universe was made only of whatever this was. This feeling of sorrow, this dark, tarry tentacle, this sense of pain. And so I didn't care. And it was as if I had stepped inside of some kind of black hole. And by doing so, it felt as if there were 1,000 people taking their arms and squeezing my body in this way. And as soon as I stepped inside of whatever this was, it was as their arms opened like this. It was as if their arms completely let go. And it was rather instantaneous. There was a sense of looking around with nothing to see. Felt like a vast, open nothingness. There was nothing to think. There was nothing to feel. There was absolutely, simply nothing. It's difficult to say how long that period lasted, or if that period ever ended. Yet in that vastness, there was somehow a singular insight that arose. Something along the line of, to go into the center of pain is not to feel pain for the relief, but to be entirely inside a universe of only pain, is to accept it exactly as it is, fully, with no reference any longer, just vast emptiness. So in that light, it just seems intuitive for me to point really directly for you. There is nothingness, a sense of complete emptiness. The body isn't here. The mind isn't here. There is simply vastness. I suppose there's multiple different ways we can look at this. Let's look at the Big Bang Theory. Scientists say there was nothing. Then there was a large explosion. And then everything. The initial paradox, the building blocks of all reality. Nothingness, everything. They must be connected. Yet ultimately, the origin of all things as nothing, in a universe that eventually expands into nothingness. Was there ever anything here in the first place? Or was it simply nothing? Even if experience is telling you otherwise, see if you can pay attention to what seems vast. What is asking to be known? There is a sense of no one here. A sense of such wholeness that there is nothing. At times, it feels as if I inhabit the wall, or as if I am an insect just fluttering outside. Something as elegant as a blade of grass. Consciousness does not just inhabit these apparatuses individually. It is universal. And although it seems as if something is there, the first place to find everything is to step intimately and vulnerably into nothingness. What is emptiness? A sense of vastness, spaciousness. It doesn't have reference. And so, pointing very, very directly, the sensations of the body are simply a gateway, something that's always present, and to feel so directly into those sensations, especially in this area that we refer to as the emotional center, we seem to come closer to the center, closer to home. And maybe by doing so, we realize that we are absolutely whole. And then paradoxically, it flips. Wholeness is emptiness. Fullness is emptiness. A nice practice is to see if you can allow a sensation to overtake the experience entirely, to become the sensation, somewhere outside of the agency of doing, to allow the sensation to envelop our entire experience until we are so overwhelmed with sensation that spontaneously there is simply just vast openness. It's no mistake that all the spiritual metaphors point the same way. The phoenix combusts, becomes ashes, and then is reborn. That fire, that flame, is overtaking. It doesn't have to be referencing pain, although in the human condition it seems to be so. To sit at the base of the Bodhi tree and to be lit aflame and to be entirely engulfed in such an experience, while also simultaneously being nothing but still, we may erupt into a state of just emptiness. Without thought, what remains? Without a center, where am I? Without the theory of who I am, who am I? Every thought takes place in the past. It is simply a reflection or an echo. And if we allow the thought to echo, we begin to see that as the core of all reflection, thoughts, judgments, beliefs, and ultimately identity reach a natural state of entropy, a state of stillness, a state of silence, a state of emptiness. To be nothing, to be empty. This is the way.